and welcome back to Just Say No, where we shine a light on cannabis with clarity, curiosity, and a commitment to credible conversation, elevating the voices, stories, and products shaping the legal cannabis movement, where curiosity is queen. I'm your host, Maria Calabrese, coming to you from the heart of California's cannabis country on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and streaming on KCAA TV or wherever you get your podcast. If you tuned in last week, you know we explored the powerful return of baby boomers to the cannabis space in our episode 50 is the New 420. We talked about cannabis then and now, from garage stash boxes and Woodstock vibes to today's tinctures, gummies, and backyard gardeners. But as with any good high, there's more to the story. This week, we're picking up where we left off and expanding the conversation across generations, because 420, it isn't just a date or a time. It's a legacy shaped by culture, music, policy, and people like you and me. And today, we'll explore what that legacy looks like in 2025. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at the strains that defined the 1970s and how they stack up against today's endless menu of hybrids. We'll revisit the Waldos, the group of teens whose secret cannabis code turned into a global movement. And later in the show, I'm going to throw to a couple of our GBL TV Knowledge for Newbies street style segments where we asked questions like, if you could smoke with anyone, who would it be? Think about that, guys. And let me tell you, the answers are inspiring, surprising, and in some cases, hilarious. I like to say hilarious. We'll also take a moment to get serious, spotlighting a new federal bill that could dramatically impact cannabis businesses, especially the small, local kind many of us love to support. So whether you're here for the nostalgia, the news, or the newbies, there's a seat at the circle for you. Light one if you've got one, but not if you're driving, of course. Or just lean in and learn, because this is Just Say No. And this is Legacy to Legalization, 420, then and now.
By 2020, Bank of America and Merrill Lynch estimate that will grow to $35 billion. And many experts believe it could eventually reach $200 billion each and every year.
So I start with a question. What were the Waldos actually smoking back in the 1970s? We're talking pre-dispensary days, before there were terpene charts, QR codes, and strain menus as long as wine lists. There was really your friend's cousin's dealer, and when they showed up, you didn't get a menu. You got two options, this or that. You know, back then, cannabis was mostly imported, smuggled in from Mexico, South America, or Hawaii, often stuffed in duffel bags or surfboards. And what people were smoking in those days, most of it came from what we now call landrace strains. Landrace is just a fancy way of saying these were the original naturally occurring cannabis varieties grown in their native environments, untouched by modern breeding. They weren't engineered in labs or named after desserts. They were shaped by the soil, the climate, and the tradition. Think back, Acapulco Gold. Remember that one? From Mexico. Rich, spicy, and mellow, I'm told. Maui Wowie from Hawaii. Fruity, uplifting, and a beach day classic. Panama Red, Thai Stick, I hear people reminiscing about. I was too repressed and constrained to be taking part in these, but what I've learned is these strains had distinct aromas, mellow highs, and cultural soul. And for the most part, they were what the Waldos and anyone in the know were lighting up in the 70s. These strains, they weren't bred for extreme THC levels or flashy names. You didn't need to know the THC percentage. You just knew that it felt good. Now, fast forward to today, and cannabis consumers face a completely different, totally different landscape. You walk into a dispensary and you're hit with names like Apple Fritter, Lemon Cherry Gelato, or Gorilla Glue 7, each promising a very, very, very specific experience, or at least a very specific vibe. It's a bit like alcohol during Prohibition, if you think about it. Back then, if you wanted a drink, you found someone who made it in a bathtub, right? Or a backwoods still. No labels, no quality control, just moonshine and mystery. We didn't get alcohol back. What we got were options. Wine lists, distilleries, sommeliers. Suddenly you weren't just drinking, you were tasting, pairing, and choosing based on personal preference and experience. You know, cannabis is going through the same evolution. And just like wine, the label on the bottle, it might catch your eye, but it's the flavor, the aroma, and how it makes you feel that really matters. That's why cannabis scientist Dr. Jeffrey Raber has been encouraging a new approach. Now, when I spoke to him, he pointed out how unreliable strain names have become, almost to the point of being meaningless, thanks to inconsistent labeling, decades of hybridization, and marketing-driven branding. It's reached a point where you might as well ask, will the real OG Kush please stand up? You know, and after hearing him explain this, something clicked in my head. I started thinking, shopping for cannabis, it should be approached more like going to a farmer's market. You don't just grab an apple because it's called a Macintosh. You pick it up, you smell it, maybe ask where it was grown. You want to know what you're getting. In cannabis, it's really no different. It's not about the name on the jar. It's about the smell, the feeling, and the experience it gives you. It's about the terpenes. Those are the essential oils that give cannabis its smell and influence its effect, the cannabinoid profile, and most importantly, how it makes you feel. Terpenes, not taglines, tell the real story. Because let's be honest, apple fritter, I'm told it isn't always apple-y, and it's rarely frittery. So I would like to throw to a quick video the discussion I had with the ladies of MJU University who introduced me to Dr. Raber. So let's have a look.
We love learning from scientists, and a lot of them are our friends. Dr. Jeffrey Raber is working on a new naming convention that is going to be much more meaningful. Because what does OG Kush mean? And who's the real OG Kush? Will the real OG Kush please stand up? Right? I mean, Dr. Raber showed us test results of, I don't know, about 20 OG Kush submittals from different growers, a scatter plot. They were all over the place. Some were in the land of indica, some were in the land of sativa. You can't trust it. And I'm sure that grower thought he was growing OG Kush, but what is the real OG Kush and what does that mean? So if we want to be able to trust this medicine and tune our bodies into it, right now, until we have a better naming convention that speaks to the therapeutic benefits within each strain, we have to train our noses. And that's why it's important to really familiarize yourself with the terpenes, know what your body agrees with and what it doesn't agree with. And if you know that, like, maybe you don't have a good reaction to limonene, don't buy the ones that are lemon haze or the ones that smell lemony. This one smells cheesy.
It's almost like learning your wines.
And that's the
Precisely. There's cannabis sommeliers.
That's the benefit to being able to walk into a dispensary. You can walk in and you can smell and see your medicine before you buy it. That's a downfall, I think, with the delivery service. You see the menu online, you take for their information that that's what it is. You get it home and it's not necessarily the same. But I can go in the store and I can smell this and I can see where in my body that's going to affect me. And one time I smelled Jesus OG. And I lie to you not, I felt it here in my third eye. I smelled it and I felt it in my third eye. And I bought it just because of that, so that I could meditate with that Jesus OG and talk to God through smoke.
Oh, I want to try Jesus OG. Yeah. I like to consider this a perishable produce. Yes, you can get groceries delivered, and I've actually used services like that before and have been disappointed. Like, that's not the apple I would have picked for myself.
Right.
So maybe that's not the strain you would have picked for yourself. And you need to, not need to, but I think it's really nice to have a connection with the plant, even with the grower. We have the dispensary between us and the grower. But I'm a fan of farmers markets, where you can look the grower in the eye. Is this pesticide free? Also, you get to see and touch and feel your produce just like you would your apples or your pears. Why is this any different?
The truth is, land race now, why is it any different? And you might be wondering, can I still find those classic strains, from the 70s today? Well, the truth is, land-raised strains like Acapulco Gold and Maui Wowie, they're harder to come by these days, at least in their original form. Over the decades, these cultivars have been crossbred so many times that their genetics have changed. Breeders focused on creating new hybrids with higher THC, faster growth, or flashier names. And in the process, many original profiles were lost or diluted. That's why a lot of the classics you see today are really descendants inspired by the originals, but not quite the same. Finding a true land-raised strain today is kind of like hunting for a first edition record. They still exist, right? But you have to know where to look and what to ask for. So the next time you shop, channel your inner Waldos, not for the mystery stash, but for the sense of discovery. Smell the jar. Ask the bud tender. Ask about the terpenes. Think beyond the label. Pay attention to the effects when you smell it. And most importantly, how the scent makes you feel. That's where the real information lives. Trust your senses more than the strain name, because what mattered then still matters now. Cannabis should feel good, smell good, and work for you. So it's time for our Just Say No listener questions. And one just came in from a listener in New Jersey who's asking, will THC show up in a pre-employment drug test? Oh, this is a great question. This is a really good question. And one a lot of people are asking, by the way, as more adults return to cannabis, not just for wellness, but for winding down responsibly. Here's the deal. Yes, THC is detectable in drug tests, and it can stick around longer than most people think. Because THC is fat soluble, it gets stored in your body's fat cells and can linger for days or even weeks after use, depending on how often you consume and your metabolism. So yes, even if you feel totally clear-headed, trace amounts of THC, they could still show up in a standard urine or blood test. Now let's talk Jersey. Okay, Jersey? Let's talk New Jersey. That's where I'm from. And that's where this question's from. In 2021, New Jersey legalized adult use cannabis. And as of now, state law generally, and I put quotes around generally, prohibits employers from making hiring decisions based solely on a positive cannabis test, unless the job is federally regulated or safety sensitive. And that makes sense about safety sensitive. And just recently, New Jersey introduced Senate Bill 2628. That's Senate Bill 2628, which reinforces that, in quotes, a drug test for cannabis cannot be the sole basis for a pre-employment hiring decision unless permitted by federal law. That means if you're applying for a non-federal job in New Jersey, because in the state it's legal, pre-employment testing for cannabis use is largely off the table, but there's a few things to keep in mind. I say largely off the table, not completely. There's often a difference between medical and recreational cannabis protections in the workplace. In many states, including New Jersey, registered medical cannabis patients may have greater legal protection, especially when cannabis is used under a healthcare provider's guidance. In some cases, employers may be legally required to consider medical cannabis use as part of a reasonable accommodation. However, if you're using cannabis recreationally, those protections aren't always guaranteed. It often comes down to your state's laws and your employer's policies. So while the tide is turning, there are some important caveats. Federal jobs, government contracts, or DOT regulated roles, they still require testing under federal law, regardless if it's legal in the state or not. Safety sensitive positions, of course, like pilots, heavy equipment operators, or medical staff, usually are exempt from this exception. And of course, employer policies vary. So even if it's legal in your state and it's not a federal job or safety sensitive job that you're applying for, always read the fine print and ask HR if you're unsure. Bottom line, know your state law, but also know the workplace's policies. And for those of you listening outside of New Jersey, the rules may be very different. Some states still allow cannabis testing, even if it's legal in that state, as a condition of employment. Even we've linked the New Jersey bill, Senate 2628, and more info in today's show notes at greenbeelife.com. That'll be in today's show's notes at greenbeelife.com. So you can explore more how New Jersey handles cannabis and other states in terms of employment protections. Hey, guys, keep those questions coming, because if you're wondering, someone else probably is too. So now, earlier we talked about the Waldos, landrace strains, and how cannabis has evolved across generations. What does the next generation think about all of this? We talked about 50 is the new 420, but what does the next generation think about all this? So at Green Bee Life, we're always looking to bridge the gap. So we hit the streets and we asked a younger crowd a simple question with some big answers. If you could smoke with anyone, who would it be? Well, let's check out what they had to say in this week's Knowledge for Newbies.
Only living? Okay. Ooh, this is tough.
Gosh, that's such a difficult question. There's so many people I would love to smoke with.
Green Bee Life presents Knowledge for Newbies.
I can consume with anyone, who would it be? This has nothing to do with cannabis, but Barbra Streisand, if you like cannabis, I would actually smoke. I would do anything. I live and die for Barbra Streisand. I genuflect.
I would smoke with Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead
Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead. I love him.
because I'm an old deadhead and Bob's just cool and I'd love to talk with him and jam on guitar in Marin someday.
I think that having that moment with him would be one of my highlights, that's for sure.
Willie Nelson would be a good one. I love music, and he's been such an outspoken figure in this world.
It'd probably be like a musician or a celebrity. I'd like to smoke some weed with Sting. That would be kind of cool. Or Snoop Dogg. Sting or Snoop Dogg?
Snoop!
I know.
Snoop, I've been trying to meet up with you, dog.
I'm from Long Beach, so I'm gonna have to say Snoop.
The most obvious, like probably overstated, my Uncle Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, maybe like Snoop Dogg too.
I had this bucket list. Of course, everyone wants to smoke with Snoop Dogg, but I got to knock that off my list like last year, so that was pretty cool.
Pretty sure if I smoke with Snoop, I'm gonna be able to smoke with other cool rappers and stuff like that, because that's what he does.
He has his own blunts. They come in a box. Inside the box comes like singular tubes. They each have like 2 grams of Snoop's premium bubble gum with a glass tip. They're the baseball bat. They'll knock you off your feet.
I don't know how I would say no to Snoop, because I've seen his show and it's basically just like, here, hit this, here, hit this, here, hit this. I'll probably end up not being able to move for quite a bit, but it's a risk I'm willing to take to smoke with Snoop.
Snoop Dogg is my guy, but I want it just to be him and me in a music studio. Not at a festival, not at a party. I just want to lay back and smoke with Snoop and make a beat.
I don't really see Sting as like a stoner, but he's a creative artist, so I feel like he probably would consume. It'd be fun to consume with him, and maybe we can, jam, make a song.
I would smoke with Dr. Dre. He has the financial ability to really make an impact on everything that had to do with the war on drugs in the whole state of California.
I would love to smoke with Kid Cudi because he was one of my favorite rappers and artists to listen to while consuming cannabis, and also just going through a lot of anxiety and depression that he also struggles with. I'd love to just sit with him and smoke like a really fat blunt and go over like all of our life shit together.
And then also Mama Erykah Badu. See, you said one person and I like went down the list. Also SZA, because she's woke and I feel like we could have a really nice dialogue high.
One would be Napalm. She is the singer of Hiatus Coyote. I'm obsessed with her. She's amazing. Music is first and foremost in my life. I think that having those exchanges with musicians that I really put on that pedestal, that I have a lot of respect for, would be a really interesting experience.
So that was one of my coolest experiences, and after that I was like, well, who can I go to now? I guess Obama. Yeah, I think I'd like to smoke with Obama.
Barack Obama. If it was just Barack talking to Jess and it wasn't about like former president, I want to hear what he has to say. I want to hear his thoughts on science and stuff. I'm not even a big political person. I know everyone's gonna think of like some sort of like obvious one, like Tommy Chong or something.
Tommy Chong would be cool to meet because he's still doing his thing and advocating for it. And I respect those old school guys like that.
Went to your comeback tour in 1994 in New York. We spent New Year's Eve with you, didn't drag my husband. He's a closet Barbra fan, let's come out and face it. He did say he got embarrassed because he was on a plane and he was pulling up his Bruce Springsteen playlist and yours came up by mistake. I think he wanted to hear a little of That Don't Rain on My Parade.
Jim Belushi. I love him. According to Jim, that show was great, and now I just want to like hang out with him and smoke some of his flower buds.
I would like to smoke with my entire supply chain. I want to reach out to people at the ports. I want to reach out to people at the train rails. I want to reach out to people in major manufacturing plants. Invite them all to like an assembly, if you will, and pass out joints to everyone. And let's put up some, graphs up, and let's just have a whole full-on work session.
I would pick my grandma, because my grandma, I'm gonna get emotional. She's on a lot of pills and opioids for pain, and I don't think that side of the family knows much about cannabis and how much better quality of life she could be having if she were using cannabis.
Paul Stamets, the famous mushroom mycologist. Anybody else a brainiac?
Obviously, Elon Musk. Who wouldn't want to smoke with that guy?
There's this cannabis influencer, Koala Puffs. She's this really cute, quirky girl, Angela. She's so cool, she's so sweet, I just want to hang with her.
I would love to just meet her and be with her. I probably shouldn't say this, but people who do know you, because there are 6 degrees of separation, they said, you don't want to meet her because she gives you such joy, you love her so much, and she won't live up to it and you would be disappointed. Barbara, I would not be disappointed on your worst day.
Part of me would like to consume with her for health benefits, and the other side would be to be like, I made my Christian grandma smoke cannabis, just because I feel like that's the way the world should be trending.
Seth Rogen would be cool too, but I feel like I would eat too much food with him and James Franco. I don't want to put on weight during these smoke sessions.
We have to get the Pope on board with cannabis. Cannabis comes from the earth, and God created the earth and the plant. So, I mean, he's got to be down with cannabis, right? Vatican, here we come.
If I sang a song with Sting over cannabis, all the proceeds would go to a good cause.
That's probably not a good answer because it's just be an excuse to meet her. So anyone I'd really want to get lifted with, maybe my husband. He's never tried it.
Walking on the moon, some may say. I don't know.
Okay, how fun was that? We heard everything from Barack Obama and Bob Weir to Snoop Dogg. Oh, Barbara, you did coffee talk. If you ever want to do like blunt talk, there you go, blunt talk. I'm here. We don't even have to smoke. All right. And we even heard the Pope. Someone said their grandma, which might be the most wholesome and revolutionary answer all at once. And look, it's not just wishful thinking. Some of these people mentioned really are part of the cannabis story. Willie Nelson, he has his own line of cannabis edibles. And, you know, he credits the plant with helping him kick cigarettes and preserve his voice. Snoop Dogg, he famously, are you ready for this? He employs a full-time blunt roller. No joke. It's a real job. And from what I hear, it pays very well. Now, for those of you who don't know, and trust me, I didn't know either until I got real curious. A blunt is a cannabis, it's cannabis rolled in a cigar wrap. Think of it like the espresso of joints. A little bolder, a little stronger. Definitely, I am told, not your entry level puff. Jim Belushi, he runs a full-on cannabis farm in Oregon. He blends plant medicine with family healing. And Seth Rogen, he co-founded Houseplant, and it's all about low-dose, design-forward weed for creative types. So whether you're blazing with the Beatles or toking with your tax guy, yeah, people do that. The fact that cannabis can spark this kind of intergenerational curiosity connection, that's culture in motion, guys. That's just culture in motion. And it's proof that no matter your age or playlist, 420 is a conversation everyone is invited to. So I wanted to move on now. I want to take a moment to shift from the cultural to the critical in our legal update, because while cannabis has made its way in dispensaries, documentaries, and even dinner parties, it's still being punished on the federal level when it comes to Schedule 1 and that impact on taxes. Right now, cannabis businesses, even those that are 100% legal in their state, cannot deduct normal business expenses. I'm talking about payroll, rent, or marketing. Why? Because of a little-known piece of that tax code called Section 280E, which treats cannabis companies like illegal drug traffickers under federal law, so long as it remains Schedule 1. And now, here's the rub. That's not bad enough. We were all so hopeful for rescheduling on the path to just descheduling. But now There's a new bill in play, one that can make things even worse than 280E. It's called the No Deductions for Marijuana Businesses Act. Guys, that's the No Deductions, that's NO, not KNOW. No Deductions for Marijuana Businesses Act. And if this is passed, it would cement this unfair tax treatment, even if cannabis is eventually rescheduled or removed completely from the Controlled Substances Act altogether. All right, so what does this mean? That means that small businesses would continue paying effective tax rates of 70 to 90%. The good ones are not surviving legalization. It just makes me nuts. Legacy operators and equity entrepreneurs, they would stay at a severe disadvantage. And the illicit market, so this is where I just get incensed. The illicit market, it would only grow stronger, undercutting efforts to create a safe, regulated industry. You know, we talk a lot on this show about moving from pot culture to pop culture. But if we want cannabis to thrive as a legitimate part of the economy, the policy has to catch up with the culture. Our friends now at the National Cannabis Industry Association, they're sounding the alarm and they're calling on all of us to act. And it's super easy, guys. You can visit their action alert page. Again, we're going to link that in the show notes of this episode and on greenbeelife.com. In just a few clicks, they've set it up so that you can send a message to your representative urging them to oppose this dreadful bill. Because for cannabis to truly move forward, fair access needs fair taxes. And a marketplace, it can't be equitable if the tax code still treats it like a crime. So really, really important. And I hope you'll join us and get involved. So as we continue this journey from legacy to legalization, it's real important that bill doesn't pass. But I want to take a moment to just pause and reflect, because while so much has changed in the world of cannabis, at its core, a lot has stayed the same. You know, back in the day, cannabis was whispered about, passed around in basements, right? You remember we rolled it in. I didn't. Too scared. But it was rolled in zigzags. I remember the zigzags, those zigzag papers tucked into old film canisters. There was no lab testing, no terpene talk, no apps to track your strain history. There were just garage stash boxes, maybe a cassette playing the Grateful Dead, and a quiet hope that what you were smoking was mellow and mold-free. Fast forward to today, and it's a whole new world. We've got low-dose mints, 2.5 milligram gummies, cannabis for sleep, stress, sex, even skincare. Now we can microdose for menopause or vape for vertigo. It's legal in more states than ever, and baby boomers are now one of the fastest growing consumer segments in the industry. But here's what hasn't changed. They use it to manage pain, to soften grief, right? To ease anxiety, or just to bring a little joy to a tough day. Whether you discovered cannabis in the 70s or you're discovering it now in your 70s, the motivations aren't all that different. So when we talk about legacy to legalization, we're not just talking about laws or licenses. We're talking about the people that these laws and licenses impact. We're talking about reclaiming a relationship, a healthy one with a plant that was never the enemy, only misunderstood. And the more we share stories across generations, the stronger this movement becomes. So I want to go back to our Knowledge for Newbies crew and hear some of their stories that the younger ones are sharing when it comes to cannabis use before and after legalization, because they rode that wave too. So here we go.
That's actually a really good question. I have to think on it for a second.
Green Mean Life present. Knowledge for newbies.
I would say that legalization has opened what's available to me.
My consumption has changed drastically since legalization because I don't feel like I would have used CBD so soon in my regimen if it wasn't for legalization.
I have evolved as a cannabis consumer, knowing my dosage now more and less usage than I consumed back in the day.
My usage has increased, I'd say, over the years, just because I've kind of figured out which strain works for me and how much. So I'm now more on track in a way.
I think I use less now because I'm finding the right products for me.
Prior to legalization, there were only so many things that were available to me, and I think to everybody.
It kind of opened up the doors for more products, more conversations to be had about those products, and it's really opened up the doors for part of my self-care regimen as well. It was never part of my self-care routine, and now it's a huge component, if not the leader of my self-care.
It helps me with my sports injuries. It helps me not be depressed. It helps me get active. Sometimes I'll smoke some weed and I just want to go outside, run, or ride a bike. So it helps me be motivated, which is kind of weird, but that's how it works.
I'm the type of guy who can use it and still be me and still accomplish things as far as like planning and getting work done.
Mostly what was available was flour, because there wasn't really much in the way of shatters and waxes and proper vapes. I didn't even really understand that tinctures were a thing until after legalization.
Being able to use the right tinctures or understanding my ratio.
I'm so grateful for legalization because of the fact that it's also opening up not only the opportunity for myself to medicate differently, but for others who maybe never saw medication in the form of a bath bomb or a form of a tincture. They actually get to know about products that are going to suit their lifestyle in addition to the ones that have already existed for a number of years.
I feel like my cannabis consumption, the routine of it necessarily didn't change or why I was taking cannabis. It's always for my Lyme disease with the muscle spasms and pains I get in my anxiety. But now that I'm thinking about it, I am a lot more picky now with my cannabis, knowing where I get it from, legal shops, shops that are compliant, brands that test safe products.
A medicinally regulated marijuana, I don't want to go to 7-Eleven and get a pack of blunt cigarettes. Like, that'd be weird for me.
Your options were cheaper and more readily available. However, after rec legalization, there are more fancier products with amazing packaging.
Lab testing, because there are products that are out there that are being formulated and we don't really know what's in them.
When I first moved out to California, I just figured it's medical. Everything is safe, but it wasn't regulated at that point. So now when I consume cannabis, I'm a little bit more concerned on what goes in my body, and I'm a lot more comfortable taking edibles. Because before, I would be terrified of eating way too much and just ruining my day.
Edibles though, they did need to regulate them. That's close to a psychedelic. Ooh, edibles is like now like a mellower, something just to kind of make you mellow. Back then, you knew you was going on a trip. It was guaranteed you was going on a trip.
Edibles were something that it was like, I could not even handle an edible. I would take one nibble of a brownie that a friend made and I would be gone for hours and hours and hours. So I always stayed away from edibles for a long time. After legalization and with the evolution of dosing and microdosing, it makes edibles much better.
Exploring with edibles and microdosing edibles, I actually probably use a lot less. I smoke a lot less.
I think the main difference is that I'm trying new products that I normally probably wouldn't. I don't really eat a lot of edibles, but part of the job is to understand what the effects are of certain edibles. So I'll try some new stuff that kind of affects me a little differently.
I'm definitely sprinkling stuff out a lot more since legalization. I love getting my mom edibles and giving her new things to try, whereas before It was very hush hush.
So my use before legalization was very secret.
My sister's gotten in trouble in Alabama with the police just for driving someone to the store who happened to possibly maybe have sold someone like a nickel bag, which is, for those that don't know, a $5 bag of weed. If someone else was in her car, she got in trouble for something that she had no idea that was going on.
When I was in college, I witnessed cannabis be legalized in DC, and watching all of that movement happen on the Hill really gave me this excitement or this energy around cannabis and what the future of cannabis would look like.
So for people to experience that and to go just 2,000 miles over and I can go buy one, get one free weed, or I can fly home to Alabama or Tennessee now with my flower, it's definitely changed a lot and it's become a lot more free.
My consumption has went up out of state since legalization. Now you could just land where you land and blaze up.
Patient access out of state
Yeah.
when you're traveling is such a big deal. It's mapped out for you now where you can stop by. Whereas before, literally, we had to drive and ask and hunt
Or
it down.
smuggle.
Patient access though, is important.
And so now being here and being able to shape what the legal narrative will be, I think has really gave me this great sense of purpose and responsibility, and I'm very, very, very excited about it.
For more knowledge for newbies, be sure to check out GBL TV on our website, greenbeelife.com. And subscribe to our newsletter too. Stay up to date for when products are available in your region, exclusive subscriber giveaways. Plus, receive 25% off your first order from our marketplace for all the best brands in one cart.
Love their openness about it. When I was their age, oh my goodness, I would not have even, I would have been in trouble for mentioning the word. But speaking of words, it's time for a new segment I want to introduce called our Cannabis Glossary. A lot of people have been writing in and calling in and asking for a cannabis glossary. So even if you've been around cannabis for a while, the language could still feel a little hazy sometimes. So today's words, ready? Indica, sativa, and hybrid. Now, you've probably heard these terms tossed around at dispensaries, even on our show here and in magazines, maybe even at your neighbor's dinner party, right? But what do these actually mean? Do they even matter anymore? Well, let's start with the basics. Indica was originally thought to describe cannabis plants that were shorter, bushier, with broad leaves, and it's often associated with a relaxing, body-centered effects. Sativa referred to plants that were taller, with narrower leaves, typically associating with uplifting, energizing effects. And hybrids, that's a plant that's been bred from both indica and sativa lineages, a kind of genetic mix that could lean one way or the other, or land right in the middle. But here's the twist. Always a twist, right? Modern science and some of the best growers in the industry will tell you that these categories, they aren't really reliable predictors of effect. Why? Because almost everything on today's shelves is a hybrid to some degree. And what really influences your personal experience isn't the indica or the sativa label. It's the terpene profile and the cannabinoid content of the plant. So think of it this way. Calling a strain indica or sativa is kind of like calling a wine red or white. It tells you a little bit about the plant, but not nearly enough about how it will taste, smell, feel, or hit you. So when you shop, don't be afraid to look beyond the label. Ask about the terpenes. Like I don't even know how to pronounce this. I need someone to help me. I know mycerne, which is relaxing, limonene, which is uplifting, or pinamine, which is clarity. So pay attention to how you want to feel, not just what the jar says. And remember that everybody's endocannabinoid system is unique. It's different. What's relaxing for one person, it might be stimulating for another. I can drink coffee all day. It doesn't hit me. I know people that can't have more than one cup. I know makes them too hyper. I know people that drink coffee and it actually has the opposite effect and makes them tired. So bottom line, indica, sativa, and hybrid, they're helpful starting points, but they're just the beginning of your cannabis journey. The real magic happens when you match the plant's chemistry to your body's needs. So stay curious, ask questions, and trust your own experience. Remember, here on Just Say No, curiosity is queen. So let's see what our friends over at Knowledge for Newbies had to say when asked indica versus sativa. And let's now go back to the video I jumped the gun and played for you guys a little bit too soon. Here we go, the right one.
What's my favorite strain? Stay tuned.
Green Bee Life presents Knowledge for Newbies.
I have various favorite strains depending on which ailments I'm trying to hit. I think different strains are good for different times of day and different things that you're dealing with.
I like all the strains.
I was in Thailand for too long, so I became a fan of any strain.
Sometimes I like using indica in the day, which I don't recommend because you might not get as much done, but the taste, the little more danky flavor, I kind of like.
The whole body high is great, but I prefer sativa dominant strains only because I like to think about things. That's how I come up with most of my ideas. Weed helps me tap into that poetic state of mind.
As much as I love indica, there's just so much I get out of the sativas when I use them.
I have a #1 favorite strain ever. It's grown by THC Design, XJ13. It's one of the most delicious sativas, hybrids.
It's a hybrid, but sativa-based hybrid for someone that wants to get stuff done.
It's euphoric, it keeps me focused, it gets me light and giggly more than I normally am anyway, but the taste of it is so pure.
And just stay in a good mood and energetic. It's a great strain.
You can taste all of the different terpenes in it too if you're smoking it in a vaporizer versus just a bowl. They do a really good job in growing.
It's tough. I have many favorite strains. I will tell you one of my favorite was our wedding strain, which we had for our wedding party. And for our wedding, we all had Alien OG.
The band loved it.
That's all that matters.
I would say that my favorite strains would have to be a sativa, and specifically besides that, I don't know. That's part of my journey that I'm still working on. So if you have any suggestions, sativas that I would enjoy, let me know. For the complete episode, please visit GBL TV at greenbeelife.com. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.
Alien OG, Girl Scout cookie, this one, that one. I tell you, if you've ever walked into a dispensary and felt overwhelmed by all the options, well, this next segment is for you. So, and you're not alone. But whether you're new to cannabis or returning after a few decades, understanding what makes a quality flower and how is it going to affect you, right? Since we can't really rely on indica, sativa, hybrid, or strain names. Today, for our product spotlight, I'm featuring one of the brands that helped redefine that standard, Candescent. Now, Candescent is known for premium, hand-trimmed flower and elegantly simple effects-based labeling. Real simple, none of this strain name, this, that. They have calm, cruise, create, connect, charge. Candescent was designed to make cannabis accessible, premium, beautiful and empowering. It was a brand that spoke to wellness, not just weed. It made choosing flower easier for newcomers and elevate it for connoisseurs. Because people returning say they can't smoke today's cannabis. It's so different from what they had when they had two choices in the 70s, this or that. So for a time, Candescent represented, honestly, anyone you talk to in California, the best of what the California cannabis market had to offer. So let's throw to our GBL TV host, Jeff Erlingson, and chef entrepreneur Brandon Allen to walk us through a quick cannabis 101 with Candescent and what you should be looking for when buying flower. And then I want to talk more about Candescent when we return.
Hey, we're here in the Green Bee Lab. I'm here with cannabis chef and educator Brandon Allen. Welcome back. Now, he's going to do a little demonstration for me and for you about the ingredients that he uses and how to determine flower quality. Is that how you'd say that?
Absolutely. So as a chef, before being a cannabis chef, I had a huge focus on quality ingredients. Not all cilantro is created equal, not all tomatoes are created equal. So when I got involved with cooking with cannabis to help with my back pain and sleep and all these other things, I really wanted to understand the quality. So I was making infusions, but I didn't know how to differentiate various strains, or I had no idea what these names meant, like green crack, what does that tell me about how it's going to make me feel, or blue dream, or anything like that. So I got certified as an interpener. So think terpenes, they are the aromatic properties of cannabis, or the essential oils. So interpener, it's a made
So
up
is that
word,
like a
but-
sommelier?
Exactly, yeah. So
Okay.
it'd be like the cannabis sommelier.
So follow your nose, that's great sound
Absolutely.
advice. I try to follow my nose. I mean, this has definitely helped a lot. But so I went to the dispensary and I'm curious. I smelled both of these and they both smell good to me.
Okay.
Pop, pop. I'm
Nice.
curious what your opinion is.
Oh, I got a little purple going on there. Some bioflavonoids that create that coloring. All right, so let's see here. So just based off of the nose, it's very low. This is a super tight, dense flower structure, and it's low on the nose. So this is leaning towards the indica spectrum. And terrible trichome health. You can see after just a couple minutes we spent together,
Yeah.
there's just a few hairs on there. That is definitely probably a bottom of
Oh,
the shelf,
wow.
buy one, get one deal.
Yeah.
This one, it's definitely got a better nose. It's sharper, it's sweeter smelling, it's earthier. Of course, the color and then the bud structure and density is leaning more towards the indica dominant. And again, you can see that the trichomes, they're sticking out more because of the darker color, that purple. But get rid of that purple color and see how few trichomes there still are.
Right.
Okay, so imagine the frost of this, or the trichomes of this on there, how that would actually look. Okay, so following your nose is a big part of it, but also understanding the physical characteristics is good. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't going to medicate you or it's not going to get you high, but for maybe $5 more, a couple of dollars more, you can get something that the quality is going to be fantastic. In California, my favorite flower company that I can trust all the time is Candescent. They are based out of Palm Desert, and this is how they package their flower. And what's important about this is, forget about the color and the design and how nice it looks. It's a box, and you can't see through it. Okay, so this is now protecting the flower from light exposure. Okay, which is going to oxidize the terpenes and cannabinoids and things like that and minimizes heat. And then when you open this up, not only do you have a hemp wick, which is a safer way to consume, you've got some sulfur-free matches, rolling papers and crutches, depending on how you like to consume, but now you have a solid container that is in here. It's not in a bulk jar that they pulled out with tweezers and they crammed it in when they weighed it. So you know that this is safe. And the hard
Sealed,
glass,
yeah.
and also childproof, so that's what's really good as well. But they also have a humidity regulator. So this is maintaining the relative humidity at 55% of this, which is going to inhibit the potential of powdery mildew, which is something we talked about earlier. Because even if the flower is lab tested and has no powdery mildew, depending on how it's stored, it can actually get molds and mildews afterwards. So this helps maintain that. And then this flower, you can smell, has a beautiful nose on it because it's been kept in here. And it's virgin flower in the sense of not only is it a non-pollinated cannabis plant, female virgin, but we're going to be the first ones to touch it here, just because of their cultivation practices and how they handle and trim. So I want you to look at this up close. Notice the trichomes, they're beautiful.
This one here.
And so when you're picking out flower at the dispensary, yeah, you might be able to save a couple dollars with what's on sale or what's over here or what they're promoting. But does it mean that you're going to have the desired effects, and does it mean that it's going to be as potent or last as long? So with this, you know that it's clean, it's fresh. The trichome health is always beautiful with them. And then right at the bottom here, it has the lab test.
Oh,
It
wow.
tells you the potency. It also has a tracking number, so you can actually get the full terpenoid profile as well. So they categorize their flower based off of the effects. So this is their Create, which falls right in the middle, which is their hybrid. So this has, and I've seen all of their lab tests because I love this company and I look them all up. This has a really nice balance of myrcene, which would make the calm category dominant, to limonene, which would make the charge category dominant. So this is right in the middle there. So this is your clean the house type of flower. It's just floating around, you know, where this is your fall asleep and this is your go to a concert. And that's how they determine things based off of the effects, which ultimately stem from the terpenes, which is following your nose again.
Follow your nose, follow your eyes. If you can, take a close look. I think that's a
Absolutely.
mistake I made. I trusted my nose too much. I don't have a good smelling nose. That's why I don't know anything about food. We got to hang out so I can
We'll
learn about
craft
food
this.
too.
Yeah, we'll hone your craft
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
Excellent.
thanks again so
that's
much.
like a brief 101, well, not too brief, but a 101
Yeah.
on cannabis quality. And I hope that, you know, next time you're in a dispensary, you can walk in with a little bit more confidence and even get one of these really cheap on Amazon, just so you have a tool to be able to investigate, or you just go right for the top.
With a no fail. Follow your nose.
And follow your eyes.
Oh yeah. And for more info, follow us at Green Bee Life.
Huge thanks to Brandon and Jeff. Now, on a more somber note, let's talk about the future of Candescent, or what appears to be the end of it. Once a flagship brand headquartered in Desert Hot Springs, California, Candescent now seems to have quietly shuttered operations. According to the Green Market Report and several other industry outlets, the company, while still holding 3 active business permits, has surrendered or allowed to lapse at least 10 other licenses. Its website is inactive. Multiple attempts by me to reach former executives have gone unanswered. There's been no formal press release, guys, but in this industry, silence often speaks volumes. Sadly, this isn't an isolated story. California's cannabis sector has been crushing. It's seen crushing instability in the past year. MedMen, right? Touted the Apple Store of weed, filed for creditor protection. And dozens of mid-sized and small operators have closed up shop. They're unable to compete with the illicit pricing, the burdensome taxes, and the patchwork of regulation. Candescent was doing everything right, giving you premium pesticide-free flowers, sleek, stigma-free branding, a clear educational model with effect-based use. But even with all of that, they could not survive, or appears they're not being able to survive the legal market. And that is awful. It has to tell us something. As consumers, we could still make choices that support integrity. Ask your bud tender about how the flower was grown. Look for test results. Choose companies that care about their communities, their cultivation practices. But also, we have to hold our local politicians and regulators accountable, not just the industry. We need sensible policies, fair taxation, and real pathways to profitability for brands like Candescent to thrive, not just survive, because the cannabis movement didn't come this far to lose its best players and flower to bad policy. So whether or not this is truly the end for Candescent, the impact they had and the standards they set, those have to stay in place. But we have to be able to afford to keep them in place. And here, just say, no, we'll keep carrying that torch, one flower, one fact, and one fierce conversation at a time. Brands like Candescent didn't fail. The system failed them. And it's time we fix it. Hey, it's time to wrap up today's show. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And we'd love to hear from you. Send us your questions, your stories. You know, let's keep building bridges. Let's keep learning from each other. Cannabis isn't just about getting high. It's about getting well, being informed, and living fully. And here on Just Say No, where curiosity is queen, we'll always keep it real, relevant,